ॐ यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तन्न देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम् मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ओम् वेदान्तार्थविभासकाय गुरवे शान्ताय सन्न्यासिने नानावादी नगेन्द्रसङ्घपवये योगीन्द्रवन्द्याय च मोहध्वान्तदिवाकराय भगवत्पादाभिधां बिभ्रते तस्मै भाष्यकृते नमोऽस्तु सततं पूर्णाय बोधात्मने। ब्रह्माहं यत्प्रसादेन मयि विश्वं प्रकल्पितं श्रीमत्स्वयं प्रकाशाख्यं प्रणौमि जगतां गुरुम्। यः परमात्मा जगत्सृष्ट्वा प्रविवेश पुनः स्वयं तं कृष्णं प्रत्यगात्मानं वन्दे गोपीमनोहरम्। यस्य प्रसादादहमद्वयात्मा विश्वं समस्तं मयि कल्पितं च तं सर्वलोकैकगुरुं सदाश्री स्वयं प्रकाशं गुरुमानतोऽस्मि। गुरूणां चरणां भोजं प्रणिपत्य निरन्तरं तत्कृपालेशतो द्वैत चिन्ताकौस्तुभमारभे। ओम्। So then, what exactly is the subtle body was told. So the subtle body can be seen as the samashti, as a totality, or as the individuality. And because it is the subtle body. Now the subtle body is consisting of the Panchamahabhutas, Sukshma Panchamahabhutas, which means the Apanchikrita Panchamahabhutas, wherein the 5 elements have yet not undergone the process of grossification, and therefore they are still in their subtle state. So these 5 elements in their subtle state, the 5 organs of action, the 5 organs of knowledge, the 5 pranas, and this is what is, and the mind and the buddhi, the intellect. These are the constituents, components of the subtle body. So now, having explained that much and also cleared off one more major objection which always has been raised by the Vaisheshikas, and that was about the Samavaya. And having answered that in quite elaborately, we are now on page number 81 in the physical copy. The original text, the Moola Grantha, Etadeva Sukshma Shariram Avidya Kama Karma Sahitam Puryashtakam iti uchyate. Now he gives you one more thing to be understood about the subtle body, about the Sukshma Sharira. Etadeva Sukshma Shariram. This subtle body. Which subtle body? Now you can understand that as the whether it is the Samashti or Vyashti. But this subtle body, along with three more things. And what are those three things? Avidya, Kama, Karma. Three things more added. Okay. Is called as Puryashtakam. A district of 8 cities. Puryashtakam. Yeah, Ashtakam, Puri Ashtakam. Puri means a nagaram, a city, a town, a settlement of 5. So it is what? Ashtakam means of 8 towns or 8 cities. Puri Ashtakam. Settlement of 8. Okay, or 8 settlements, not of 8, of 8 settlements. So avidya kama karma sahitam puryashtakam iti uchyate. So kindly will you please enumerate them again? Now that you have said there are these 3, avidya, kama and karma. Avidya meaning the ignorance, kama is the desire, and karma is the papa punya sanchaya. Okay, the collection of papa and punya. Because whenever any karma is done, now look at that. This is also very interesting. That whenever an action is performed, the action finishes. And the action already, when the action finishes, there is a point where the action has finished. Yet, this very action, you are going to say becomes the cause for the result. Okay. So we are saying that the cause has to be present immediately a moment before the effect is produced. You cannot have cause in some other period and the effect in some other period. Okay, they have to have, there is there is just the immediate moment. What is the requirement? The next immediate moment, preceding immediate moment. For example, the milk turns into the yogurt. And so we can say milk is the cause, yogurt is the effect. So we will require the milk and yogurt, and they can be confidently called as the cause and effect, because the cause, the milk, is inevitably present a moment before the yogurt is born. And therefore, now we can say with certainty that milk is the cause of the yogurt, okay, of the curd. So we require the cause to be there in the preceding moment, or the preceding name, in the earlier moment before the cause is produced. But your karma already has finished. And if that karma is going to give you phalam, then that karma is not present. That action is not immediately is not in the immediate earlier moment. Are you all able to get that point? And therefore the question comes, then how can you say that this action is the cause of that particular effect? How can that be said? For example, the Agnihotra is done. This person has done the Agnihotra. He has finished. And then as a result of that Agnihotra or of that particular ritual, the result is attainment of heavenly world, celestial world. Now, this ritual already has finished over here. How can you say that this ritual is the cause of that attainment? Because after having done that particular ritual, the person must have lived for 20 years, 30 years, and now he has died. Now that he gets an entry into the heaven. But for his entry into the heaven, the cause which was said as to be the particular ritual, that Ishti, etc., which was done, Agnihotra, no, that already had finished long time ago. He does not have, how can he now have, how can that be said as to be the cause? Because it is in another frame of time. So over here, the Mimamsakas are now saying that the action is the cause. But what happens whenever this action is done, any action is done, this action has got two effects. One is an immediate effect, and then another one is called as the adrishtam. There is a drishta and adrishta effect. Okay, two things are produced. Something which is seen immediately and something which is unseen. Something that is unseen, adrishtam. So this action, any action, okay, every action, in fact, every action will produce either papa or punya, or it can be a mixture in a permutation and combination of papa and punya. So it is called as the mishra karma, papa and punya. Now this papa punya will be present and it will fructify into the result. It will bring you situations of joy or sorrow or the mixed situation. Okay. This is how the karma gives its result. Okay, this is how the karma gives its result. So this karma is called, what is that karma? By the word karma, what do we mean? Papa or punya. So what is this Puryashtakam? Puryashtakam, 8 towns, a cluster of eight towns, Puryashtakam. What is this cluster? We are saying it is Jnanendriya Panchakam, Karmendriya. Okay, read this. Jnanendriya Panchakam, Karmendriya Panchakam, Antakarana Chatushtayam, Pranadi Panchakam, then Bhuta Sukshma Panchakam. Bhuta Sukshma Panchakam. So now we have 5. And now Avidya, Kama, Karma. So now this is your 8, a group of 8. And this group, because them by themselves are some sort of a cluster, so it is Puryashtakam. Avidya, Kama, Karma, iti ashtau. Etani ashtau. These are the 8. Okay, this is the main line. Now, this is from the original text. Now, this particular line, which is now taken up for explanation, occurs in on the page number on the page number 84 in the commentary section. On page number 84. What is it? Iti shlokokta puryastak shabdat prakriyantaram aha etadeva. What is that shabda which was said? Puryashtakam. here we Evam cha anayoho tadatme etad upahita taijasa sutra manorapi tadatmyam bhavati. Bhinnatve sati abhinnatva sattakatvam tadatmyam. Tatascha hiranyagarbha hangrahopastya tat praptya sarvotrishta anandavaptihi prayojanam sambhavati. Tadartham Tajnanam arthavat iti bhavaha puryashtakena lingena tranadyena sayujyate. Okay. Now, how did this topic of Puryashtakam come? Though we are discussing Sukshma Shariram, though we are discussing the subtle body, now there is a link. And therefore, that link means it is a development. It is an advancement of the thought. So, here, if you remember that we had covered this topic of Upasana. Which Upasana was that? It was told that when a person does the Upasana of the Tadatmyam with the Hiranyagarbha, Tadatmyam of the Taijasa with the Hiranyagarbha, then he attains Brahmaloka. Okay, what was said? That he attains Brahmaloka. Huh? How does he attain the Brahmaloka? So there is this shloka, there is this verse which says, Puryashtakena lingena pranadyena sayuchyate. Now he finds his oneness with the Hiranyagarbha along with the Puryashtakam. So now here at this point, we have heard the word Puryashtakam. And therefore now the teacher has chosen to explain Puryashtakam as a part of explaining the subtle body. It is Shlokokta Puryashtaka Shabdartham Prakriyantaram Aha. So the subtle body is being explained through another Prakriya. What Prakriya? We will see. Puryashtakam. So on page number 84, the original text. I hope now is everybody in synchronized thing from where we have gone through. Otherwise, I will just recapitulate it for everybody of you again. This is a recapitulation in 2 minutes. The author was explaining to us the subtle body. Okay. In explaining what is subtle body, he said that the subtle body now is the samashti subtle body and the vyashti subtle body, which means the total subtle body and the individual subtle body. Between the total subtle body and individual subtle body, there is an identity. Tadatmyam. And let's keep the word Tadatmyam as it is. There is some Tadatmyam. The consciousness reflected in the total subtle body. Now, because over there now the Upadhi is total, this consciousness is now called as Hiranyagarbha. And the consciousness reflected in the individual subtle body is called as Taijasa. Just as there is identity Tadatmyam between the individual subtle body and the total subtle body, over here also there is Tadatmyam between the Taijasa and Hiranyagarbha. Now with this word Tadatmyam, the Vaisheshika said it cannot be Tadatmyam, it will have to be Samavaya. Now, if it is considered to be Samavaya, then Samavaya, in accepting Samavaya, we will have to accept that Samavaya is Nityam, and along with Brahman, there is still something called as Samavaya, which is Nityam. Now, this goes against the Shruti, and therefore, now there was a whole discussion in deconstructing the proposal of the Samavaya Sambandha. Instead of Samavaya, what is it that we have said is Tadatmyam. And since Samavaya is useless, Tadatmyam is acceptable. Sir, you have gone through a very rigorous process. But what is the point of all these things? The point is that a person can now doubtlessly, with certainty, undertake the upasana. What upasana? To the upasana of discovering, meditating on the tadatmyam between Taijasa and Hiranyagarbha. Okay. As a result of this upasana, what will he attain? Hiranyagarbha loka. He will attain Hiranyagarbha loka, the Brahma loka. So this is what was told to us. Now, how will he attain? And how will he attain that Hiranyagarbha? He will find his oneness with Hiranyagarbha along with the Puryashtakam. So now that Puryashtakam word has come to us. So we are standing on this Puryashtakam, in which we already have seen what is the meaning of Bhuta Sukshma Panchakam A. Then we have seen what is the meaning of Jnanendriya Panchakam, Karmendriya Panchakam, Pranadi Panchakam, and Antakarna Chatushtayam. So we have the meaning of all these five with us. Now what remains for us to be understood? Avidya, Kama, and Karma. So these are the 8 constituents of this Puryashtakam. So now on 84, go to the original text. Tatra karya vidya drashtavya. Sa cha chaturvidha anitye nityatva buddhi ashuchau shuchitva buddhi asukhe sukha buddhi anatmani atma buddhishcha. Now, when explaining the avidya, the ignorance, he says, now this ignorance also can be categorized as the karana, the causal ignorance, and the effective ignorance. It's effect. So effective ignorance. There is a karana jnanam, so which is karana avidya, and there is karya avidya. Okay, karana avidya, karya avidya. This karya avidya, which can be called as the not effect of ignorance, ignorance as if actually ignorance cannot have any cause, but ignorance can be the cause of ignorance. Okay, ignorance can be the cause of ignorance. Why are you saying something like this, sir? Are you trying to make it mystical? No. And this will become clear to you just in that example of snake and rope again. Swamiji, please bring some other example. No need. When we are able to understand things and get our points cleared by one thing, why do you want to increase? Oh no, it is just for some change. No, after so many days you are doing, and then early morning again we got to start, and again that snake and rope. Don't cry and crib. And understand and be free. That's more important than crying, cribbing, and complaining. No complaints. Now look at this. From where do we begin the snake and rope? Right from the time that you entered the room. How is this room? that room is inadequately lit. And there is something there in the room which is not very clear to you. And what is your first reaction? I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. So now I don't know is the admission of ignorance. So you have admitted there is ignorance. I don't know. What else is, declaration of ignorance? I don't know. Aham na janami. I do not know. Ignorance. I do not know. It is a rope, but what are you saying? I don't know. What will be called as knowledge? Knowledge will be when you will be able to know the rope as rope. When you are going to know the rope as something else, it is still not knowing the rope. Correct? You may know it as snake or a crack in the ground, or you may know it as some, jaladhara or a garland or something like that. But the fact remains that you still do not know the rope. Not knowing the rope is the ignorance about the rope. Correct? So there is the ignorance, which was your first experience, is still there. And what is your second experience? This is a snake. Though now there is a claim, I know it is a snake, I think it is a snake, yet it is ignorance because you still haven't known the rope. And therefore, not knowing the rope as a rope, but knowing it as anything else is still ignorance. Correct? What has caused the second ignorance? Not knowing. Ignorance is the cause of ignorance. Ignorance does not have any other cause. Ignorance does not have any other cause. But it is ignorance. Therefore, we are going to say there is Karana Vidya and there is Karya Vidya. Got it? So now not Aham na janami kimidamiti. I do not know what it is. Karanam. But I think it is a snake. I think it is a garland. I think it may be a stream of water. All this knowing is also still ignorance. And therefore, this ignorance is caused by the Karana ignorance, the causal ignorance. And so now this will be called as Karya Avidya. Okay. So keep this in mind. Otherwise, we could have landed up with a problem. But Swamiji, don't we say that ignorance does not have Karanam? If ignorance does not have Karanam, then how can you have a title like this, Karya Avidya also? And so, in order to understand that, bring the snake and rope. Got it? Not knowing the rope still continues to be there, even in your experience of it as I know it is a snake. Correct? So knowledge has not taken place. If it is not knowledge, then what it is? What is it? So erroneous knowledge is also ignorance of it. So therefore, but then to make it a little different, we are going to say there is Karana Vidya, there is Karya Vidya. Okay. Tatra Karya Vidya Drashtavya. Now, this Karya Vidya, when we in the Puryashtakam we have used the word Avidya. In that very context, Tatra means in that context of explaining Avidya or understanding Avidya, we need to observe, look at this topic of Karya Avidya. Okay, got it? all of you are still able to hang on to what is happening. Because these days people have really scared me by saying that Swami, you can't follow what you're saying. You take us into so many the details and commentaries. It's not a nice reward to any teacher to say that we don't understand. No, the whole thing is meant so that you are able to understand. Okay, so here we go. Sa chaturvidha. Sa chaturvidha. Now this karya vidya is fourfold. Everything, you cannot just ignore it. So these details are really interesting. It's fourfold. It is not only enumerating, just putting numbers. No, there is an interesting, because it is how our experience is. This is analysis of our own experience. So how anitya nityatva buddhi in those fourfold avidya, karya, avidya, the first fold is something which is impermanent is seen as permanent. To see something that is by nature impermanent, it is seen as permanent. So, anitya nityatva buddhi. It could be from anything, like even, the person keeps on feeling that I'm going to be young forever. I should be young forever. So, I may have become 67, but I still, I can give a good tough competition to this boy in 16. Nityatve nitya buddhi. Anityatve nitya anityatve anitye nitya buddhi. Nityatva buddhi. Then what should be there in anityam? In anitya, there should be anityatva buddhi. You should be able to understand anityam as anityam. But what is he saying? That what is anityam, he is seeing as nityam. Okay, therefore, that is nityatva buddhi in the anitya vastu. Ashuchau shuchitva buddhi. That which is apavitra. Shuchi simply does not mean cleanliness or what do they call? Cleanliness or hygiene. The word shuchi means sanctity, pavitriam. Okay. It means pavitra. So there is one more layer of understanding to the idea of hygiene. Something can be hygienical, but it is not necessarily something that is pavitram. Okay? Pavitra. So therefore, ashuchau shuchitva buddhi, that which is not pavitra, that which is not sanctified, then is seen as something which is sanctified, which is pavitram. So ashuchau shuchitva buddhi. This body of ours, the physical body of ours, it is by its very nature. It is it will give filthy smell. Okay. The two openings which the intestine has, one is the mouth and the other is anus. And in between, the food is being processed. The gases are generated. Now, what do you think it should smell like? Therefore, the breaking down of the proteins, etc., is bound to release gases, and therefore it is whichever opening that is going to emit a foul smell. Now, a person now then thinks, no, 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 it should not be. I should smell nice, and I smell nice. Now, this is physical body, no matter whose it is. Even if you are royal blood, or you could be a Hollywood actor or an actress, it is still physical body. Oh, but then I have been called as Miss Universe, the best, the most beautiful body of this whole world. Hey, you can have that, but after all, it is still body. It is physical body. And it will have its own functions. So, shucho, ashucho, shuchitva buddhi. It is a pavitram, and then to have that idea that, well, since this is my body, it is good. No, it is like this. It is like this. I don't know if this is mentioned anywhere, but I have heard a nice story about Gautam Buddha. It can be of really some significance over here. It is said that Gautam Buddha died at a quite ripe age of 80. He had become sufficiently old, and already he had subjected his body to the cold, winter, rain, to set an example as how the Buddhist monks should live. So Buddha already was living and on alms that he would go from door to door. And when he was old, he had gone to some, in a settlement of low caste people where, because of their poverty or so, they had to just eat the food, which was whatever little, what do they call? Fermented, spoiled meat. And so these were the people. So they dropped that a piece of meat in his begging bowl. Now, whatever falls into the bowl is acceptable. So Buddha eats it, and because he's not able to digest, he has diarrhea and he dies out of that. But when he is thus suffering and his body has become so emaciated and so old, the news spread like a wildfire everywhere that maybe Gautam Buddha may not live longer. So these people from far and near had gathered, and Gautam Buddha had very little strength in that body. Then, when thousands of those people had gathered just to have his glimpse, he gets up from his place, manages to walk outside and stand at the door of that hut or whatever he was in, and he throws all his clothes, revealing, his body which has become so emaciated, the bones sticking out, the old loose skin, the muscles losing their elasticity and power, and thus he stands like that with that body, and then the words that he said is, even Buddha dies this way. Even a Buddha dies this way. This is how it is. This is the case of the body. So ashuchau shuchitva buddhi. So that which is necessarily by nature unsanctified is then understood as something sanctified, pavitram, is karya vidya. So what is the first one? Anitye nityatva buddhi. What is the second step? The ashuchau shuchitva buddhi. And the third one, asukhe, that what is not joy. That what is not joy. Asukhe, sukhabinne. That what is asukhe, sukhitva buddhi. To see it as source of happiness or happiness itself is the third one. And what is the fourth one? Anatmani atma buddhi, that what is not the self is seen as self. These are the four folds of karya vidya. Okay, these are the four folds of karya vidya. In fact, in the Yoga Shastra, only this is called as avidya. But this is viparyaya. To see the snake is obviously to know the rope as snake is ignorance. But this ignorance is caused by the ignorance of not knowing the rope. Okay. And therefore, not knowing this Atma is Brahman, one will imagine that this Atma is Jiva, that this Atma is Karta Bhokta, this I is this body, mind, complex. Therefore, I am a man, I am a woman, I am young, I am old, I am beautiful, I am ugly, I am hungry, I am thirsty, I am intelligent, I am dull-witted, I am proud, I am humble. All these ideas are karya. And why? What has caused this? Not knowing Atma is Brahman is the cause of this avidya. So now avidya is also karana avidya and karya avidya. Why are we on this word avidya again? Because it is we are trying to understand Puryashtakam. Okay, Puryashtakam. Now, in this Puryashtakam, the 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriya. Okay, let us go by the proper sequence. The Bhuta Sukshma Panchakam, the first pentad of these subtle elements. Bhuta Sukshma Panchakam. Because it is a Panchakam, it will be a pentad. So, Bhuta Sukshma Panchakam. The next pentad is Jnanendriya Panchakam, the pentad of the sense, the organs of knowledge, Jnanendriya Panchakam. Then Karmendriya Panchakam, the pentad of organs of action, Pranadi Panchakam, the pentad of 5 vital airs. Okay, and then we have, which is the 5th one now, Antakarana Chatushtaya, the 4-fold inner equipment. Antakaranam, 5. Then avidya, kama, and karma. Thus we have 8 in total, out of which the avidya is understood, has to be understood in the details of its karana state as well as the karya vidya. So this karya vidya was told to us is again 4-fold. How is it? That anitye nityatva buddhi, ashuchau shuchitva buddhi, asukhe sukhitva buddhi, no, sukhitva nahi, sukhatva buddhi, and then anatmani atma buddhi. Okay, this is how it is. Taduktam anitya shuchi dukkhanatmasu nitya shuchi sukhatma khyatira vidya. And to show that this is the karya vidya, he brings that yoga sutra. So therefore, that which is called as avidya and recognized as avidya in the system of yoga is of course avidya, but they do not go beyond it. And therefore, yoga can be helpful in destroying the karya avidya, but the karana avidya remains over there, and therefore, the samadhi, etc., is a great spiritual sadhana, yet it is not the cause for absolute liberation. Okay. Anitya, so that is what it is said. Asya artho anitye brahmalokadi samsara phale nityatva buddhir eka vidya drashtavya. Sutram vyachashte asya artha. Now, the sutram, the yoga sutra which is quoted, the teacher goes to explain that. And he says that anitya nityatva buddhi, that which is necessarily ephemeral, temporal, is seen as permanent, timeless. And where do you have such kind of a thing? Brahmalokadi samsara phale, that no matter whatever that phalam is, result is, it could be a celestial world. And therefore, where it is said that this is the celestial world, the heaven is permanent, it is only the praise. It is not meant to really say that it is permanent. It is impermanent, and that what is impermanent, to call it as permanent is ignorance. Okay, so anitye brahmalokadi samsara phale. Okay, nityatva buddhi eka avidya. This is one fold of that avidya. Now we have to really look at this with finer details, because he has said that Brahmaloka is anitya. Though Brahmaloka is anitya, to imagine it, to see it, or to experience it as permanent is called as the first fold of ignorance. In the first fold, first type, prakaram. Okay. Now, at this point, the teacher is going to be challenged. And he says, sir, how can you say this Brahmaloka is anityam, Brahmaloka is nityam? Brahmaloka is nityam, that is what the Shruti says. Brahmaloka is nityam. And therefore, now we have to understand and wait over here to analyze what exactly is this Brahmaloka, and why is this Brahmaloka also called as anityam? Got it? Though it is anityam, then if a person says that a particular loka of that devata is nityam, then that person is foolish. And so over here, we will have to stop at the karya avidya. So let us stop over here. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanta Shanta Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashikito Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेद विभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्त देहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. We will meet again tomorrow to continue from this point. Okay, Karya Vidya. Thank you very much.